How are you today? I am like over 24 hours late on this live stream because I was gonna go live yesterday, but shit caught up with me. Managing clients and trying to onboard new clients and then still do lead generation and still keep my other clients happy and onboard new team members and try and be a good friend, try and be a good family member. It's all just a lot, like sometimes things add up and it's just like, yeah, I'm not doing good at none of that. Somebody give me a blanket and feed me, please. Um, and I've been thinking about that in terms of like whenever we've been working on things or when we're putting energy into places, how are we determining what's a good use of our energy and how do people make the decisions they make when they get into desperate places from wanting to get out of that desperate place because we weren't able to take care of ourselves, right? From one way or another. And I was kind of thinking of that in terms of like not to excuse it, but to understand a way in which an issue can occur. In the last case for the last live stream I did about Tawana, and that video is linked in the description of this live stream. Um, we were talking about how, like, on one level, I do believe that if we only understand the world, or um, I don't know why the captioner says love because I didn't say that, but um, anyway, fucking yeah. But if we only understand like life through the lens of the way which we were brought up into it, like sometimes that's all you ever know until you're able to step outside of that and learn different, right? And so that can be how certain behavior may perpetuate or be normalized to a person or in a system or with a group. Um, and so I've been thinking about that in relation to that conversation. And in that conversation, I was also comparing Tawana to, um, I'm going to say the name one time. It's in the description of the video just so we know who I'm referring to. And then I'm going to try to continue discussing GBR, but I am talking about not GBR, GRB, my bad. GRB, my bad. Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Gypsy Rose. Shit, I can't speak. You know what the fuck I'm saying. That bitch. So, I don't want to normalize the slur, and I don't like that I'm like, because I'm like, okay, I just want to be clear about who I'm discussing because of accessibility, but then I don't want to be normalizing the slur either, so I just feel fucked up. So I try not to talk about that person too much, not only because I don't want to glorify it in any way or make her more famous than she already is by contributing to that, but also because I don't like the normalization of the slur and the name and the way everybody just keeps talking about it. I just feel like if somebody named themselves a deaf slur or a native slur, um, like, and that's, obviously deaf, but fucking, I would be so pissed. Like, and everybody's going around saying it all the time. Like, I can't imagine how much that must trigger people. But anyway, so last live stream, I was comparing her to Tawana and Tawana Thornton Thomas. And in that live stream, I couldn't find a source for where GRB had said that she was native, but I finally found a clip for that. And so I'm going to show that real quick just because it bugs me that I couldn't find the evidence. And so I just want to show the evidence. And because it was so hard to find, but at the time that it happened, I remember it being everywhere. And then I go look to find it. It was so hard for me to find it. I could only find one video on it. And so now I'm like, the fuck? So just in case it's like wiped or something, I'm gonna just put that aside. Um, I just wanted that documentation for my own, like, so I don't feel gaslit because I know what happened, and the fact that I couldn't find evidence for something that I knew that happened was bothering me. You know what I mean? So we're gonna take just a quick look at that, just for me showing, hey, me grounding myself, like this is real. And then after that, I did want to talk about this situation. I saw it today. Earlier to between this morning I wanted to cover it earlier today, but I needed to get some work done and then I needed to show up for some people. And so I wasn't able to cover it at that time. But this morning I found this about this lady who had stolen a wedding dress. So we're gonna cover that too. So I don't know how to say this lady's name, and who gives a shit, right? Because she stole some shit. But I think her name is Raylee Rukavina, and I don't know how to properly say this name either for the wedding dress designer, for the gown designer, bridal gown designer, but I would assume that it might be pronounced Casze. It's spelled Casze. So I've been, Casze is sounds kind of right-ish, maybe. I apologize if that's wrong. Um, So yeah, we're gonna take a look at that story, and then I figure we could just wrap up, just to kind of like, because for me, we've been covering some heavier shit, so I just kind of thought this would be a good live stream to take my mind off of that shit, and to then also focus on progress. So there's this lecture about 10 years ago. I watched it from Stanford Business. And it was all about how to start a startup. And lecture one is named after the entire series. The whole series is like a playlist. I forget how many videos, but let's say it's like 10 or 12 just for the sake of guessing. And it's like, like a little playlist of business advice. And the first one is named How to Start a Startup after the whole playlist is as well. And I just feel like at the time I had a lot of mixed reactions to watching the content, because on one level, I remember there being a lot of good shit where this stuff was being explained to me, and I was like, wow, I wish someone told me this before. Um, and then other stuff, I'm just like, okay, bootlicker, fuck you too. Um, is kind of how I feel about the way that they word or their ideology in the lecture series from what I remember. And that's what I remember from like 10 years ago. So I thought I could rewatch it, because I haven't seen it since, and just see what are my current thoughts, because I'm a whole new person now on the series. And I don't know if I'm gonna go through the whole fucking, definitely not this live stream, but this live stream we're definitely only watching and reacting to one video. But for that, but for the whole playlist, I'm considering maybe doing, like the whole live stream reaction, the whole playlist reaction. I'm considering it, but we're definitely gonna at least do the first video today. So yeah, fucking, I'm gonna roll my intro and then get this bitch started, because I'm already talking long enough. Hi, my name is Lexi, aka Deaf Child. I'm born deaf, hard of hearing. My team was one of the top teams between 2020 and 2024 in New Orleans and Louisiana. I began doing business as Deaf Child in 2013, marketing 2011, and sales 2009. I've earned 50 plus certifications in marketing and sales, and I have my Bachelor of Science from Loyola University, New Orleans, with a music industry studies major and a business administration minor. Visit my site at noladeafchild.com. Okay, so first I did find a video source here about the Gypsy Rose situation. Oh, also, I forgot to mention at the beginning, I am testing again. I tried a new volume adjustment because I've been going through volumes, and I do understand that it would probably be way more professional of me to do some pre-testing with like just record some shit and then watch it, because on OBS it doesn't, like, I don't know what the fuck you're seeing. I would have to record it, download it, and then watch it and test that. And I understand that I should probably do that. It would be more professional. Uh, but so fucking I understand that, but I just haven't had time and I haven't been focusing. So instead, I've just been adjusting that shit before I go live. And then watching the live later. Be like, well, I'll fix it next time, or I'll try again next time. So, maybe I will in the future try and be more professional about that sound checking. You know what I'm saying? Because I do know the proper way to do it. I'm just not doing it. You know what I mean? So, I'm sorry on my end for fucking up the experience on your end. Uh, but, you know, life is hard. So bear with me. I'll get there eventually. Okay, now, moving on here, real quick, just a quick moment. The GRB, I keep saying GBR. Why am I like this? GRB situation. Fucking, this bitch was saying she's native, and I really need someone who, well, I don't need someone. That sounds like I'm demanding your labor. I apologize. I don't mean to be demanding anybody's labor. But I, I'm so want someone who is of the Biloxi Chitimacha tribe to please let the class know, let the public know. Do the Biloxi Chitimacha tribe claim her? Like, I want to know. Or is that problematic of me to be asking? Like, am I being colonial with that? You know what I'm saying? Because I was just arguing with someone about how I don't think any native person should have to dox themselves to prove they're native. And here I am over here like, is GRB native? But okay, I feel like, okay, given the history of allegations of fraud that she has been involved in, I feel like there is a valid concern to question cultural identity fraud. Maybe I'm wrong for that, for excusing it with that, but that is kind of why I think I question her, you know, um, specifically. But let's look real quick at the evidence I have here. My bad, I was muted. Okay.
Well, I know on my dad's side I have Native American. The tribe that we belong to is called the Biloxi Chitimacha.
That's a name.
It is. And so I know I have Native American. I mean, other than that, I really don't know.
And so where she goes, other than that, I don't really know. That's where it leads me. I'm like, so, but if you knew you were native for sure, in my opinion, wouldn't you have done your genealogy if it was confirmed through the tribe, in my opinion? So if you knew your genealogy, wouldn't you then know the rest, in my opinion? Allegedly, theoretically, conceptually, right? Based on my people's ways? I don't know. Just curious. Just a question. Just so I just wanted to show like I wasn't pulling that thought out of my ass. And you can go click for the last live stream I did about Tawana Thornton Thomas thing. Um that's linked in the description of this video. That's where this situation, that's where I'm referencing now, like why I'm showing this. It's from that, where I couldn't find this in that live stream. It makes sense for that. um so yeah, here's the evidence. It's right here. I am crazy, but I'm not that crazy. I'm not crazy, I'm just a little unwell. I know right now you can't tell. Stick around and maybe then you'll see more of that side of me. And I'm just kidding. That's not the lyrics. I know. I'm sorry. And so fucking now let's segue into a different conversation here. Have you heard about this bridal gown situation? Are you addicted to TikTok like me? And if you're addicted to TikTok like me, did this come across your For You page yet? Because holy fucking shit, man. First of all, this woman is gorgeous, stunning. Look at her, beautiful, gorgeous. Is this Casze? Because damn, gorgeous. The dress, stunning. So, I came across the original video. This is the first video that came across my For You page. So let's watch it real quick. I don't think it's captioned, so I'm going to just pause and let y'all know what's being said as well. So this one doesn't have a voiceover. It's just the song to that Gucci Mane song by Photo Shoot. The Photo Shoot. I mean, I didn't say that right. Photo Shoot is the song title. Gucci Mane is the artist. And it was saying story time. What does it say? Story time coming on how Raylee stole her dress, and it tagged the person that did it. And it said, here's the bride, what a shame. And then it goes to showing Ray's Instagram, owner of rays.hair.co from Raylee.Ruk. You cannot find either of those accounts now. Of course, you know. And then it shows her TikTok at Raylee Ruk. And obviously, you can't find that account now either. So that's obviously gone. And so, yeah, and she is a Colorado hairstylist. So yeah, and apparently she is getting married to a dude named David Wells, according to comments. Now, people were saying show up to the wedding, sis, and all sorts of things. And look, you can see how like she's helping her try on the dress, get accessorized, and all of that. You look at the comments are all on the bridal gown side, and Raylee has completely shut everything down, went completely private. There's been no videos of self-defense from Raylee where there's any kind of misunderstanding on the payment transaction. And so, you know, these videos came out a few days ago, 2 to 3 days ago, and so for me, it's like, in my opinion, if Raylee did not steal this, if this was a misunderstanding, why wouldn't Raylee come forward with those receipts, right? So for Raylee's instant reaction to then be to go private, shut everything down, am I wrong for thinking that's suspicious or for questioning that? Because for me, that's suspicious. It's like, where are you running? Why are you hiding? Why did you block her? Why did you? Oh wait, I'm sorry. I'm jumping. Let's keep going. This because we're about to get there. Okay, so the description for this says, Raylee has our dress and won't pay us the balance. It's a bridal gown, and at this point she will not return or pay her balance, so the dress is stolen. If anyone has any information about this Colorado bride, please let us know. So yeah, everyone was saying she had changed her ID. It did look like she'd already had that account according to the screenshots. But both of those are down. 2 hours ago, one person said her Facebook's still up. Now that's down. But someone said, according to Lisa, she said she had a pickup saying she was going to sue for slander. And someone was saying, I'm sure their financial records and messages show those to the lawyer. So, yeah. Someone else was saying she works at Electric Beauty Limited in Colorado. And she's employed there as of July on their Facebook page. Oh shit. I bet that won't last long because they're not going to want to be associated with this. Or if they are, I'm very surprised. Everyone's saying show up to the wedding with the police. I don't know where I feel like someone said that the wedding already happened somewhere. Everyone's saying show up to the wedding, file a police report, show up to the wedding with the police, ruin the day. Someone else said with scissors. Someone said take it from her and wear it out in front of all the guests. You know, that's hilarious though, because the designer was the lady in the dress wearing it. Like, she looks better than this person in my opinion. Like this, yeah, looks way better. Where is it? Is it in here? Is it in here or is it in the other video? Where are you? I could have sworn. Why do I think I saw that? Oh, here it is. Yeah, then that. You know what I'm saying? Right, there it is. Okay, different videos, my bad. So, yeah, and someone else said, sounds like some terrible karma to start a marriage off on. Hope you get paid. Someone else said, put flyers on her guest cars while they're away. Someone said, get a lawyer. She said, we are for sure. She will remember this wedding. Someone said, sue. She will lose more than the dress is even worth. Someone else said, just curious, why'd you give her the dress for full payment was made? Someone said she was being nice because she wanted her to receive the dress in time for the wedding. And someone said she could have Zelle, Cash App, or even PayPal the payment. It's all immediate. The dress could have been shipped the same day. That doesn't make sense. Someone said fax even paid for express shipping. This story sounds like it's from views. I will notice that it. I do notice that one of the people you can see is clearly white disagreeing with that, and I kind of wonder if that's uh, um, anything to do with them siding with the white person stealing from black labor, or is that not my place to ask? I'm just wondering though. Um, but okay, someone else said, um, so she's gonna show someone social media made multiple videos about it, car out. Knowing people gonna do this girl social media and car out for a made up story, y'all gotta think. And someone said that's a dumb concept. Someone else said I didn't say the story was made up. I said it was for views. The story could be true to a point. I think some of the information is altered for TikTok views. Someone else said free dress for her massive rabid following for her. It's truly a lesson for us all. Nice doesn't pay bills. So yeah, there's definitely some people in the comments, who do agree with the bride or whatever. I disagree with those people. I am more on the bride's business side because it takes a lot for a business to speak out against the customer, in my opinion. Now, if this was someone who like has a history of calling people out and you know that there's no legitimacy to the claims, then yeah, I get being skeptical, right? Because if you keep calling people out and then there's no truth, then you might not get believed when there's actually an issue. I kind of do get that. But on another level, I often see people, even the masses, because oppression is systemic and normalized, and we are assimilated into it. So I often see even the masses, all do some fucked up shit, and everybody's saying it's totally cool because we're all doing it. You know what I mean? In a way. And I feel like that's like how people get to where they're totally fine with finding reasons to justify, well, you know, like let's find a way to make it your fault or somehow or to put some blame on you when in reality the end of the day the bitch stole the shit. Doesn't fucking matter. You know what I mean? Because some people, when you don't do those types of offers for them, they say you don't provide good customer service. Like when you're in a luxury market, if you don't go above and beyond for your customers, on some people, if you weren't to do that, they would find it disrespectful to treat them as if they didn't have the money when they really do, and they would have paid you a shit ton. And, when you're used to working in a luxury market with people who actually have money, you wouldn't disrespect them by treating them as if they have no money. You know what I'm saying? If you give them good service, they consider that part of that luxury experience and they pay for that. That's what they're paying you for. That's you know what I'm saying? Like part of it, right? So there's some people when you're at that price point, that's the service they expect. So to then victim blame her for providing the goddamn service that's expected and basically kind of demanded at that price point, in my opinion, is just kind of victim blaming the worker for being a fucking worker. In my opinion. I don't know. Just saying. Alright. So we've had enough this one. So here we see this lady in the dress fucking stunning. So she's showing us the full dress here. The work on here is immaculate. The dress is stunning. What is the right word to call the way these are these real crystals? That I don't mean to be rude. I don't know shit about dresses, what I'm saying. But it's immaculate. The jewels on here, the I don't know if these are like jewels and beads or both crystals or what. It's gorgeous. I don't know what the fuck that is, but it looks great. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. Um, but yeah, so even the earrings like went with it, stunning. The shoes on that she has on too are stun. I like that with the dress. Like this looks gorgeous. So the description on this video is, can you all believe this is the bridal gown that was stolen from us? Read previous post. Um, and so yeah, and we got the comments here pretty similar. We have people calling out Raylee Rukavina, and one person in the last video they said David Wells. In this video, they are saying DJ Wells is the groom. Maybe David is the D there. Um, so yeah, here we've also got people. One person saying it looks way better on her. I agree. Um, if that is her, or whoever that is, it does look way better. Um, and someone said I came for the Rook drama, but was staying for a gorgeous work. They said, did y'all file a police report? I hope you did. This is just a little dream. She said, yes, we are. Um, and so yeah, fucking. And then we have this video right here when you spent 5 months making this wedding dress just for the client to steal it without paying. And she said, I put so much time, detail, and love into this dress. I shipped out to her. She blocked us on everything. Her husband TikTok is David Wells, and her TikTok is Raylee Rook. She has me blocked. Is David still on here? David is not. And so one person put, as a business owner herself, I'm shocked. Someone else said I would have showed up to the wedding. Someone said if you shipped it, you should have her address, send her a certified letter with the demand to pay, and put a 30-day timeline on it. And if she does not pay you in 30 days, place a lien on her house. Um, Someone else said just go to her hair page and book up every opening she has, and no one shows up. That's what I do. Someone else said absolutely not. File charges or sue her expeditiously. Someone said you shipped without payment. I'm sorry this happened, but always get your coins first. And someone said I work with a lot of wedding vendors in Colorado Springs, and I'm reposting this on my Instagram, tagging her. Someone said, algorithm, please bring me back to the conclusion of this. Someone said, sue her expeditiously. If I find the conclusion on this, I will update on that. And someone said you have to start using an escrow company for things like this. Client's money will be held until they receive the item and agree to finalize the purchase, so you're both protected from a loss. And it says we'll definitely implement this. So yeah. Is there any more on this? Okay, and it says point of view, the dress the bride stole, and it shows like it's got like a short corset dress, and it looks like there's like a skirt that goes over it. So this is like the bodice, and it could also be like a mini dress. I love it. It's gorgeous. It's like a cocktail dress. And then that same dress, you can add the skirt. I love it. That's gorgeous. And you can kind of see right there a little bit of the shimmer. Okay. And it looks like on the Casze brand Instagram, not Instagram, TikTok right here. That's all that's left on this issue. And then moving on here, Sin also had for creators Casze. She also has a different page here as well. And this video, and this video are about the situation. So I figured we could take a look and see what the explanation is over here as well. So there is an issue with no captions from the TikTok video here, and they used to show me a transcription. I'm really pissy that they stopped doing that, and I'm pretty sure I've got that in previous live streams before. But yeah, I'm hoping that the captioners are working for me. But yeah.
Let me explain why you cannot be nice. For story time, y'all, I shipped a wedding dress to a client because I wanted to make sure she got everything on client. She's a rush bridal client.
Okay, so it's really hard for me to hear her. I had to turn my volume up. I think she's saying that she was shipping the dress to a bridal client because she wanted to make sure she got it or something.
Shipped it out, and she has not paid me my money.
And I think she just said that she shipped it out and she hasn't gotten paid her money yet.
In business, you have to stand on your policies and your principles and do not let up, y'all. This lady.
And she's saying in business, you gotta stand on your policies and principles and don't let up. Yeah, that can be hard to do though because customers will pressure you and then you'll feel like you need to, negotiate with that deal in order to make the sale sometimes whenever you're stuck in like situations where you need money.
Lady is in Colorado and her wedding is tomorrow, and she has not paid me her money.
So this was 2 days ago. So she was saying 2 days ago that the wedding was tomorrow, meaning yesterday for me today. Um, and that she still hasn't gotten paid at that time for the dress.
And it's just crazy. Stand on your business. Don't let up for nobody.
So yeah, she was basically saying that shit was crazy and to stand on your business and not to let up. And so then she made another video about this as well, and we'll see what that.
So I didn't send the full address. Of course, I have a deposit, and then the balance was owed. But I was like, hey, let me just go ahead and get her dress shipped.
So she says the full dress wasn't paid for, but she did get a deposit, and she wanted to go ahead and get it shipped.
Sent her the balance information like maybe 2 days before.
And then she was saying she sent the payment balance information 2 days before. I don't know if she means like 2 days before the making of this video or what, or 2 videos before she sent it, or.
And yeah, I wasn't really worried about it. I'm like, hey, she's my bridal client.
And she's just saying she wasn't worried about it because it was a bridal client.
I trust my clients, especially my bridal clients. She's gonna pay.
And she was saying that's because she trusts her clients, especially her bridal clients, and that's.
Y'all has the dress, literally won't pay, has the dress, literally saying all these different little things, has the dress, still won't pay. Wedding is like tomorrow.
I'm not really sure what she was saying here, to be honest. I think she was saying something about that they have the dress, and now I think she's saying that the wedding is tomorrow.
Still hasn't paid, refusing to pay, won't ship.
And now she's saying, oh, I think she's saying she won't ship back the dress. Okay. But she's saying that she's not getting paid and that they refuse to.
The dress back. Just craziness. Stand on your business.
And she's like, yeah, she's not even getting getting the dress back or the rest of the payment. And stand on your business. Just a reminder.
No matter who the person is, do not let up. This lesson has hit so hard for me.
And she's like, now she's saying it doesn't matter who the person is and that the lesson is hitting hard for her. I don't agree because that dress was fucking stunning. Like, if someone took that dress without fucking paying me for it, dude, I would be fucking livid.
And I just had to, share this, crazy, on over $3,000 and still.
$3,000. That's like 2 months' rent for me and bills.
And that wedding dress is crazy.
So yeah, so we can see this is what we've got so far on the story here. And then there's one more video here of the dress. I think this is a repost of the other dress on that other video of the dress that we looked at on the Casze profile here. So yeah, she's saying that the Casze profile makes dream dresses stolen bridal gown. So yeah, fucking. So creator KZ. I don't know if she is KZ or if that's multiple people at the brand or what in that regard. But yeah, so that's the story that we have on this dress so far. I'm really looking forward to see if like it ever works out with payment coming up on that, or what happens if that makes it to court or what. Um, when you look up Raylee Rukavina online on Facebook, there were two posts that I thought were a bit amusing. One says, Raylee Rukavina, I hope you had a great wedding yesterday in the dress you stole. Why you didn't pay Casze for the dress, Bookie? I honestly think this is a terrible way to start your marriage with David Wells, but I don't know. And I thought that was funny as shit. And someone else put CEO Black Magic put, I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Um, Put girl, give the designer back her dress or pay for it. Why did you steal it, Rayleigh Rukavina? So, court of public opinion is more leaning towards the side of give that bitch her dress back. So yeah, and so in that regard, it's like, why is Rayleigh so desperate to steal that dress, right? Like, why isn't she profitable? Is her business doing okay? And you know what I mean? And so from there, I want to get into, to stop people from becoming or being into situations where they're like Rayleigh Rukavina and stealing because they can't build a business or sustainability for themselves. I want to talk about let's build a sustainable life for us. But before we get there, let's just kind of reflect on the value alignment here in business. Like, how do you justify when you're a business owner yourself? How do you, particularly, but even when you're just a human being, like, how do you justify going to take and steal from another person's hard-earned labor this way? You know what I mean? Um, with corporations, I kind of get it because it's like the masses are producing the product for one person who's profiting off of all of their labor, and because there's like, CEOs of major corporations are making billions of dollars and the workers ain't making shit. So when it comes to like big corporations, I'm like, yeah, go steal some shit. You know what I mean? When it comes to designers, you know what I mean? There's people like who are racist as fuck. Why don't you go steal, if you know what I mean? You could have gone and stolen from somebody who is problematic in society, right? And that would have been a good thing because fuck them, right? Like, fuck Balenciaga. Why didn't he go steal a Balenciaga dress? They can afford to lose the money and they can suck a dick anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you gonna go after a couture, craft boutique designer who curated this just for you? Like, why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? Um, and I just do think I just find it interesting how the only person that I saw actually defended um, Rayleigh was of a whiter complexion. You know what I'm saying? And this I'm just the only one with a photo that did so on their picture that I saw. You know what I'm saying? Um, like if that has anything to do with devaluing black labor, it's just a question. And I don't think I should be speaking on that topic. I just, um, that's that like, yeah, it's just, like it's just interesting to me to see this in real time. Like, I mean, I guess no, because that's fucked up for me because everybody, like, people experience this in real time every fucking day. Bitch, now it's just on the internet. But, um, yeah, I don't know. It's just something about the way of where people are like looking for reasons to be like, well, it's your fault she didn't pay you if you didn't do X, Y, or Z. And I understand how previously in live streams I discussed, am I victim blaming by just wanting to discuss ways to protect yourself in these situations because I see how I could be. But in this situation, I don't even feel like there's this like conceptualization of the question of it because it's not like they're saying, well, let's think about how to protect ourselves. They're saying, no, this is your fault. You know what I mean? That's where it's like, or they, even if they, I feel like some people did say that, but I feel like some people, even if they didn't say that, they were basically saying that. Um, you know, maybe I'm reading too much into shit. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense, but like, yeah, fucking. I just feel like some of those people, it wasn't even about business policy for them. It was just them looking for an excuse to justify something fucked up happening to her. It wasn't even about discussing ways to protect herself or ways, you know, to keep people from getting away with this in the future. It was like well, if you hadn't done that, this wouldn't have happened thing, and I hate that. You know what I mean? That's what I'm getting. But yeah, fucking. So, just to recap on that situation, putting that out there, that Colorado business owner, hairstylist, Raylee Ruka something, Rukavina stole the dress from Casze. Um, and I really think, we can look at how, also reflecting on how what you do as a business owner comes back on you. And like I've said before, I've got bad reviews on my Facebook profile because I told a police officer one time that the only good thing about him being a police officer is he might get shot. So people who are pro police don't like me. People who, like one altercation I got in with a landlord, because I'm in the Bad Landlords New Orleans group, and I got into a fight with a landlord, and she left me bad reviews, and a bunch of police officers, and just one police officer's mother left me a bad review. Fucking, at this point, I just kind of think it's entertaining. I kind of want to make some t-shirts. I've had people from middle school and high school try and claim I'm not deaf and leave me bad reviews, and those are people I fought with over like Colin Kaepernick and George Floyd type stuff. And I've had people, like I had this one chick I was arguing with about whether or not it was cultural appropriation for people who are white and not connected in any sort of form to a tarot culture such as Romani or Hoodoo, as relevant, or, whether, Native or something. Like, Native doesn't do tarot, but they have our own, certain Native tribes can have different ways of having our own, you know what? I don't like that. I'm speaking on that. I'm gonna shut the fuck up. But I'm just saying, like, different communities can have different beliefs on how we perceive visions of the future and fortune telling with telling of the future and foresight. Foresight is the word I'm looking for. Like, you know what I'm saying? Um, Things like that can all be intertwined, right? I get that if you have the lineage and the cultural connection for it, right? Totally get it. But when I'm arguing with these people about that and arguing with this person about these are people who left me bad reviews on my Facebook profile, and arguing with this one woman, and it all started too from this woman arguing with her about like if it was okay to, if you're a DoorDash driver, is it okay to fuck with people's orders if they don't tip you? Now, and I'm not saying, like I'm saying like make it difficult for them to obtain the order and or fuck with the order they get. I'm not saying, like leave it, say you're going up to a driveway, or say you're going, up a sidewalk and they don't tip you, and so you leave it at the house but you don't bring it all the way up there. I'm not saying that. Maybe you want to be, you're like, fuck it, you don't tip me, I don't give you all my effort, but here it is. But you know what I mean? um that I could kind of get, fuck it. But I'm talking about, you don't fuck with people's shit just because they didn't tip you. Like, if someone didn't tip me as a barista, I'd be a little annoyed about it. Like, well, I guess fuck you too, because I make a living off tips when you're a barista. But um, I'm not gonna go spit in their fucking drink. I'm still gonna give them the best drink I can give them in the moment. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. So, and I don't know. I'm wondering if this person just doesn't get tipped if she's got repeat customers who know it's her. But fucking, but so I'm getting the service industry because I DoorDash myself. When I'm not anymore because I don't have a car or a transportation right now. But when I've had transportation, I've DoorDashed before. Um, what the fuck? Why does it say Georgia? I'm saying DoorDash. Um, Fucking, I've done that shit before, so I totally get how it can be frustrating when you get those little fuckers that don't tip. But um, I was saying tip, don't tip, but not everybody doesn't tip. A lot of people tip. You know what I mean? Like, So to me, it's like you're not, if every single person isn't tipping you, maybe I'm wrong for not being able to believe that. Um, maybe if that is someone's lived experience, like maybe that is a thing. Is that like really a thing where not a single person tips you? Not a single one? Is that really a thing? I've never had that happen to me. In my over 10 years of service industry and everywhere I've had to get tips, I've had people who don't tip, obviously. And I've had days where I didn't get paid well because I'll have a bad day, you know, but overall, okay, I'm still on that. But that's where, so I'm so sorry, but all of this to say is, me as a business owner, even when I think I'm right on issues and people don't agree with me, that still reflects on me as a business owner when, they go leave me their little reviews and stuff, and it'll come back on me in some ways because maybe someone who doesn't know me isn't gonna take the time to get to know me, sees their review, and just decides they're not gonna even try to get to know me because they don't like those reviews, perhaps. But overall, I feel like because people get to know me, they know where I'm coming from, and then when they look at those reviews, it's like that's a joke. You know what I'm saying? And overall, it doesn't impact me because a lot of those reviews, it's about value alignment. And it really actually helps me because it keeps people around me who have more value alignment on the human rights issues with the same ideologies I have. And on certain levels, it's like obviously I don't want a echo chamber, but on another level, it's very validating when you build a community on value alignment and you have people around you who are like, when you're able to feel comfortable to speak on your alignment and human rights issues and you're not stressed about if someone is going to argue with you about if the concept of these human rights should exist, because you've created a community where the people have that consensus of we are anti-discrimination and we're trying to decolonize our language and work on ourselves and shit, even if we're fucked up and we keep fucking up. We might keep fucking up, but we're at least gonna fucking try. I do better with those types of people. You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm trying to say. Okay, I don't know. I feel like this is either a really productive ramble or a really long one. Well, maybe both. Definitely, probably both. But I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so now let's for real transition. I want to just do a little reaction to uh this little video here. I'm gonna watch it on 2 times speed because if it's too fast, I'll slow it down. Um, but just because it's a 40-minute video, so I'll already probably turn this into another hour or so. And so I don't want to spend too long on the whole thing by watching it at regular speed. And I want to be able to add some comments on it and stuff. So we're just gonna watch this dude talk. And then I'm gonna give my feedback whenever I feel like I have some shit to react or comment on regarding it. But basically, I just kind of want to see like if what past me learned from this, like how does current me feel about what past me was building my business on. You know what I mean? I don't know if that wording makes sense or if I'm making sense, right? But like that's what I'm trying to like how has my value alignment changed is what I'm wondering in what I remember of feeling what I feel about this content. And I think it's just helpful with what we've been doing with these live streams in general in terms of reflecting on what does it take to build a sustainable business in this fucked up society. You know what I mean? So yeah. Without further ado, let me adjust my computer volume because I had turned it way up when I couldn't hear that lady before. Alrighty. Here we go.
Can I turn this on? Maybe? Alright,
Can people hear in the back?
can you guys hear me? Is the mic on? No?
It's a little too fast for me. I'm going to put it down to 1.75 speed. And for anybody who just wants to watch the video, regular speed or without my commentary, it is linked in the description of this video. And so is the playlist that it's in that I was talking about earlier. I'm pretty sure I linked that. And if I forgot, I will go put it in. So, yeah. All right, let's try 1.75.
Maybe you can ask them to turn it on. Maybe we can get a big, there we go. All right. Maybe we can get a bigger auditorium, we'll see. So welcome to CS 183B. I'm Sam Altman, I'm the president of Y Combinator. 9 years ago, I was a Stanford student, and then I dropped out to start a company, and I've been an investor for the last few. So at YC, we've been teaching people how to start startups.
All right, I think I am going to go at 1.75. I'm gonna try it. He is speaking a little bit fast though, so if I am struggling to keep up, then I might go down to 1.5.
For 9 years. Most of it's very hands-on and specific to the startups, but 30% of it is pretty generally applicable.
Okay, my bad. I accidentally forgot to put my camera, put the screen up on this one thing screen real quick. So hold on, my screen's gonna go black, and then I'm gonna put this up real quick. All right. I started guide when I just first clicked, I didn't see it. And then I click now and I see it. So I'm feeling gaslit by myself. I don't know.
And so we think that we can teach that 30% in this class. And even though that's only 30% of the way there, hopefully it'll still be really helpful. We've taught a lot of this at YC already, but it's all been off the record. And this is the first time that a lot of what we teach in YC is going to be on the record. So we've invited some of our best speakers to come and give the same talks they give at YC. We've now funded 720 companies. And so we're pretty sure that a lot of this advice is pretty good. We can't fund every startup yet, but we can hopefully make this advice very generally available. Guest speakers are going to teach 17 of the 20 classes. I'm only teaching 3. Counting YC itself, every guest speaker has been involved in the creation of a $1 billion+ company. So the advice shouldn't be that theoretical. It's all from people who've done it. All of the advice in this class is geared towards people starting a business where the goal is hypergrowth and eventually building a very large company. Much of it doesn't apply in other cases, and I want to warn people up front that if you try and do these things in a lot of big companies or non-startups, it won't work. It should still be interesting. I really do think that startups are the way of the future, and it's worth trying to understand them. But startups are very different than normal companies. So over the course of today and Thursday, I'm going to try to give an overview of the 4 areas that you need to excel at in order to maximize your chances of success at a startup. And then throughout the course,
So you know what, real quick though, I want to talk about why what you're doing for a startup isn't going to be what works for a regular company. And that's because it's different phases in your company life cycle. So when you're at a startup situation, that's when you're building your company. That's when you're starting up your company. You know what I'm saying? So if you're still in the startup phase, then that means you haven't developed. That means you might not be making money. You might not be sustainable if you're a startup, right? And so startups are typically people who are trying to still acquire capital in order to be sustainable. God damn it. I was thinking of capital and sustainable, and I was combining the words and saying like some weird ass shit. But anyway, you're not gonna be fucking sustainable for that shit. So, when you're in startup mode, that's when you're really putting together the systems and processes in place that you need to build your business. And so once your business is built, at a certain level, with optimization, it's not a one and done situation. You don't set things up and then you don't touch it again. Like you're continuously improving. But what you're doing and how you execute is going to change. For example, when you are starting up and you running your first ads, you start testing the ads that are going to get you results, because at that level you don't have a personal history yet to know what worked or didn't work for you. And then once you see the ads that are working for you after you've tested, you're then able to, after you're in the startup phase, during the startup phase, you're testing all of these ads and you're going to find the correct ad situation for you. And then after that, once you're past the startup phase, you don't need to continue setting up ads that way. Yes, you do change them because you get ad fatigue. Yes, as new platforms change and as updates change on platforms, you're going to change the way you do ads and have to do setups on that. But overall, with like your funnel, you literally get to, when you have a profitable funnel, you start duplicating that shit. You put new content in because people get ad fatigue, but you start duplicating what you were doing. You're building off of what works, and you're taking what works and you leave what doesn't. And that's how you evolve from a startup. And so if you're still in a startup mode, when you're past the startup production, you're not going to get results because you're going to be taking yourself back down instead of going forward. You know what I'm saying?
Guest speakers are going to drill into all of these in more detail. So the 4 areas. You need a great idea, a great product, a great team, great execution. These overlap somewhat, but I'm going to have to talk about them somewhat individually to make it make sense. You may still fail. The outcome is something like idea times product times execution times team times luck, where luck is a random number between 0 and 10,000, literally that much. But if you do really well in the 4 areas you can control, you have a good chance at least some amount of success. One of the exciting things about startups is that they're a surprisingly even playing field. Young and experienced, you can do this. Old and very experienced, you can do this too. And one of the things that I particularly like about startups is that some of the things that are bad in other work situations, like being poor and unknown, are actually huge assets when it comes to starting a startup. Before we jump in on the how, I want to talk about why you should start a startup. I'm somewhat hesitant to be doing this class at all, because you should never start a startup just for the sake of doing so. There are much easier ways to get rich, and everyone who starts a startup always says, that they couldn't have imagined how hard and painful it's going to be.
You know, I totally agree with this too, because a lot of people tell me they want to start a business because they want to make money. And unless you're already someone who already has money and you're already financially stable and you've already got all of these resources to put into systems and procedures it takes to be sustainable, that's even then not everybody succeeds because so many factors. But that's the best chance you typically have of on average getting a success, in my opinion, with starting a startup just to be profitable whenever you already know how to put your resources in that way to replicate what's been working for you and know when to stop doing something if it's not working for you in order to put your resources somewhere else where it will, you know? So some people they can work in that way because they're just that good at business. They just have that level of resource and that level of expertise. But the general person, the average person, like when you start a startup, that's going to be your life the next 10, 20 years. Every fucking day, you're going to be fucking focused on building that business. And if you're not, then you're not paying attention to what's happening to your own quality of living, to the own controls of your own way of life. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, fucking, because when you own a business, unless you paid someone else to manage it for you, it's your job to manage it. Unless you pay someone else to manage it for you. And even then, it's your job to make sure your manager's managing right. So, yeah.
You should only start a startup if you can feel compelled by a particular problem, and that you think starting a company is the best way to solve it. The specific passion should come first, and the startup second. In fact, all of the big successes we have at YC followed this. So for the second half of today's lecture, Dustin Moskovitz, the co-founder of Facebook and Asana, is going to take over and talk about why to start a startup. We were so surprised by the amount of attention that this class got that we want to make sure we spend a lot of time on the why. Okay, so the first of the 4 areas, a great idea. It's become popular in recent years to say that the idea doesn't matter. In fact, it's almost uncool to spend a lot of time thinking about the idea for a startup. You're just supposed to start, throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks, and not even spend any time thinking about if it'll be valuable if it works. And pivots are supposed to be great. The more pivots, the better. So this isn't totally wrong. Things do evolve in ways that are difficult to predict. And there's a limit to how much you can figure out without actually getting a product in the hands of users. And great execution is at least 10 times more important and 100 times harder than a good idea. But the pendulum has swung way out of whack here. A bad idea is still bad, and the pivot-happy world that we're in today feels really suboptimal. Great execution towards a terrible idea will get you nowhere. There are exceptions, of course, but most great companies start with a great idea, not a pivot. If you look at successful pivots, they almost always are a pivot into something the founders themselves wanted, not a random made-up idea. Airbnb happened because Brian Chesky couldn't pay his rent, but he did have some extra space. In general, though, if you look at the track record of pivots, they don't become big companies. I myself used to believe ideas didn't matter that much, but I'm very sure that's wrong now. The definition of the idea as we talk about it is very broad. It includes the size and the growth of the market, the growth strategy for the company, the defensibility strategy, and so on. When you're evaluating an idea, you need to think through all these things, not just the product. If it works out, you're going to be working on this for 10 years. So it's worth some real upfront time to think through the long-term value and the defensibility of the business. Even though plans themselves are worthless, the exercise of planning is really valuable and totally missing in most startups today. Long-term thinking is so rare anywhere, but especially in startups, that it's a huge advantage if you do it. Remember that the idea will expand and become more ambitious as you go. You certainly don't need to have everything figured out in a path from here to world domination, but you really want a nice kernel to start with. You want something that can develop in interesting ways. As you're thinking through ideas, another thing that we see young founders get wrong all the time is that someday you need to build a business that's difficult to replicate. This is an important part of a good idea. I want to make this point again because it's so important. The idea should come first and the startup should come second. Wait to start a startup until you come up with an idea you feel compelled to explore. This is also the way to choose between multiple ideas. If you have several ideas that all seem pretty good, work on the one that you think about most often when you're not trying to think about work. But we hear again and again from founders that they wish they had waited to start a startup until they came up with an idea they really loved. Another way of looking at this is that the best companies are almost always mission-oriented. It's difficult to get large groups of people to the extreme levels of focus and productivity that you need for a startup to be successful, unless the company feels like an important mission. And it's usually really hard to get that without a great founding idea. A related advantage of mission-oriented ideas is that you yourself will be dedicated to them. It takes years and years, usually a decade, to create a great startup. If you don't love and believe in what you're building, you'll likely give up at some point along the way. There's no way I know of to get through the pain of a startup without belief that the mission really matters. A lot of founders, especially students, believe that their startup's only going to take 2 or 3 years, and then after that they'll work on what they're really passionate about. That almost never works. Good startups usually take 10 years. A third advantage of mission-oriented companies is that people outside the company are more willing to help you. You'll get more support on a hard, important project than a derivative one. When it comes to starting startups, In many ways, it's easier to start a hard startup than an easy startup. This is one of those counterintuitive things that takes people a long time to understand. It's difficult to overstate how important being mission-driven is, so I want to emphasize it one last time. Derivative companies that copy an existing idea with very few new insights, don't excite people, and they don't compel the teams to work hard enough to be successful. Paul Graham is going to talk about how to get started ideas next week. It's something that a lot of founders struggle with, but it's something I believe you can get better at with practice, and it's definitely worth trying to get better at. The hardest part about coming up with great ideas is that the best ideas often look terrible at the beginning. The 13th search engine, and without all the features of a web portal, most people thought that was pointless. Search was done, and anyway, it didn't matter that much. Portals were where the value was at. The 10th social network, and limited only to college students with no money, also terrible. MySpace had one, and who wants college students as customers? Or a way to say,
I do just want to say real quick, because I kind of know it's kind of a delayed response, but what he was saying where, like, you can't just do a business just for, like, an idea, like, you need to believe in it. That is so fucking true, because if you're not passionate about what the fuck you're doing when you're building your own life off of it, and you don't have the resources to be able to pivot quickly, like, you will suck the life out of yourself. You gotta have value alignment, you gotta have a passion for it. That's gotta be what drives you, in my opinion, and we'll talk more about that in Two Shakes of a Lamb's Tail.
on strangers' couches. That just sounds terrible all around. These all sounded really bad, but they turned out to be good. If they'd sounded really good, there would have been too many people working on them. As Peter Thiel's going to discuss in the 5th class, you want an idea that turns into a monopoly. But you can't get a monopoly in a big market right away. Too much competition for that. You have to find a small market in which you can get a monopoly and then quickly expand. This is why some great startup ideas look really bad at the beginning. It's good if you can say something like, today, only the small subset of users are going to use my product, but I'm going to get all of them. And in the future, almost everyone will use my product. Here's a theme that's going to come up a lot. You need conviction in your own beliefs and a willingness to ignore others' naysaying. The hard part is that this is a very fine line. There's right on one side of it and crazy on the other. But keep in mind, if you do come up with a great idea, most people are going to think it's bad. You should be happy about that. It means they won't compete with you. This is also a reason why it's not usually dangerous to tell people about your idea. The truly good ideas don't sound like they're worth stealing. You want an idea about which you can say, I know it sounds like a bad idea, but here's specifically why it's actually a great one. You want to sound crazy, but you want to actually be right. And you want an idea that not many other people are working on. And it's okay if it doesn't sound big at first. Common mistake among founders, especially first-time founders, is they think that the first version of their product, the first version of their idea, needs to sound really big. But it doesn't. It needs to take over a small specific market and expand from there. That's how most great companies have started. Unpopular but right is what you're going for. You want something that sounds like a bad idea, but is a good idea. You also really want to take the time to think about how the market's going to evolve. You need a market that's going to be big in 10 years. Most investors are obsessed with the market size today, and they don't think at all about how the market's going to evolve. In fact, I think this is one of the biggest systemic mistakes that investors make. They think about the growth of the startup itself. They don't think about the growth of the market. I care much more about the growth rate of the market than its current size, and I also care if there's any reason that's going to top out. You should think about this. I prefer to invest in a company that's going after a small but rapidly growing market than a big but slow growing one. One of the big advantages of these sorts of markets, these small but rapidly growing markets, is that customers are usually pretty desperate for a solution, and they'll put up with an imperfect but rapidly improving product. And a big advantage of being a student, one of the two biggest advantages, is that you probably have better intuition about which markets are likely to start growing rapidly than older people do. Another thing that students usually don't understand, or at least takes a while, you cannot create a market that doesn't want to exist. You can basically change everything in a startup but the market. So you should actually do some thinking to be sure, or at least as sure as you can be, that the market you're going after is going to grow and be there. There are a lot of different ways to talk about the right kind of market. For example, surfing someone else's wave or stepping into an up elevator or being part of a movement. But all this is just a way of saying you want a market that's going to grow really quickly. It may seem small today, it may be small today, but you know, and other people don't, that it's going to grow really fast. So think about where this is happening in the world. You need this sort of a tailwind to make a startup successful. The exciting thing is there are probably more of these tailwinds now than ever before. As Mark Andreessen says, software's eating the world. It's just everywhere. There are like so many great ideas out there. And you just have to pick one and find one that you really care about. Another version of this that gets down to the same idea is Sequoia's famous question. Why now? Why is this the perfect time for this particular idea and to start this particular company? Why couldn't it have been done 2 years ago? And why will 2 years in the future be too late? For the most successful startups we've been involved with, they've all had a great idea, great answer to this question. And if you don't, you should be at least somewhat suspicious about it. In general, it's best if you're building something that you yourself need. You'll understand it much better than if you have to understand it by talking to a customer to build the very first version. If you don't need it yourself and you're building something that someone else needs, realize that you're at a big disadvantage and get very, very close to your customers. Try to work in their office if you can, and if not, talk to them multiple times a day. Another somewhat counterintuitive thing about good startup ideas is that they're almost always very easy to explain and very easy to understand. If it takes more than a sentence to explain what you're doing, it's almost always a sign that it's too complicated. It should be a clearly articulated vision with a small number of words. And the best ideas are usually either very different from existing companies in one important way, like Google being a search engine that worked just really well and none of the other stuff of the portals, or totally new like SpaceX. Any company that's a clone of something else that already exists.
And to this level, I totally agree with what he's saying with like what you're doing should be very easy to explain. For me, I can explain what I do with one word: marketing. Now, if I want to be specific, there are more words to it because there's a lot to marketing. It's very broad. But like some people, they can't succinctly tell you what they do, then you've got a problem. Okay? That's all I'm saying. Obviously, when you be succinct, then you're going to overgeneralize in any case. You know what I'm saying? But, so someone could say to a hairstylist, well, do they do cuts? Do they do colors? Do they do both? Do they do one or the other? Which hair preference? Which hair type? Or, I don't know the word I'm using, if that's correct. But you know what I'm saying? Like, things like that. Like, there's just all these different, like, levels, too. So sometimes, though, like, people will ask me what I do, and I say I'm a growth analyst, be specific with how I apply my strategies, from the frame of even when I'm your marketing officer, like how am I framing these strategies through the lens of growth analysis and full funnel growth, connecting awareness to sales. People will say that's a scam, that means nothing, that's too complicated. But to simplify it, I just do marketing, I just do some typey. Um, you know what I mean? I don't know. Fuck shit. So on the one level, I can totally see where like, okay, well, maybe it's not that you need to oversimplify it. You're just reaching the wrong market who doesn't understand it, who doesn't need it. Because sometimes it's like, is it that there's not a market for you, or is it that you've just reached the wrong market, right? But sometimes it's like, nah, there's no market for that, dude. What the fuck is that? No. I can't think of that an example for that right now, but I just know that that's out there.
With some small or made-up differentiator, like we're going to be X beautiful design, or we're going to be Y for people that like red wine instead, that usually fails. So as I mentioned, one of the great things about being a student is that you have a very good perspective on new technology. And learning to get good at having new ideas takes a while. So start working on that right now. That's one thing we hear from people all the time, that they wish they'd done more when they were a student. The other is meeting potential co-founders. You have no idea how good of an environment you're in right now for meeting people that you can start a company with down the road. And the one thing that we always tell college students is more important than starting any particular startup is getting to know a lot of potential co-founders. So I want to finish this section of my talk with a quote from 50 Cent. This is from when he was asked about vitamin water. I won't read it, it's up there. But it's about the importance of thinking about what customers want and thinking about the demands of the market. Most people don't do this. Most students especially don't do this.
So what he was saying that he wasn't going to read, but is on the board, it says, most people think first of what they want to express or make, then find the audience for their idea. You must work the opposite angle, thinking first of the public. You need to keep your focus on their changing needs, the trends that are washing through them. Beginning with their demand, you create the appropriate supply. And when it comes to the way you market your offer, I think that's a good advice. But on some level, I also don't think that's the best advice because, um, you know, when you're doing things for other, on certain level, what you do for what you're doing as a service needs to be for community because, if you're not giving to community, what reason would they have to give to you? It's got to be reciprocal. Um, but on another, it's like, well, um, if you keep doing things for other people instead of finding what you want to do for yourself, you're never going to be able to discover what do you want to do, what makes you happy, what are you good at. Um, I think when you are trying to understand how to adapt in your industry, this is a great idea. When you're trying to understand the way to present your offer, this is a great idea. When you're trying to understand how to communicate with an audience and find qualified buyers for your audience, this is a great idea. But to me, it's like, there's like, I don't want to kink shame, so I apologize if this is kink shaming. But for me, I'm just like, come on, man. Furries are a fucking thing. Like, you can find an audience for anything. I apologize if that is kink shaming. I support you guys. Do what you do. Um, do it. I support anybody wanting to express themselves in a healthy way. Um, but you know what the fuck I mean? Like, on a certain level, it's like people are fucking weird, man. You can probably find someone for anything. I had this dude, like, I think I've said this on a live stream before. I had this dude where he asked me for feet pics, and he was the dishwasher at a place I was a barista. So I let him take pics of my feet, and he'd finish my closing duties for me, and he would sweep, mop, take out my trash, do my dishes, you know what I'm saying? Like, he would do, and clean the bathrooms. He would do all of the closing duty stuff that I didn't want to do for me, and I would give him pictures of my feet. I have no shame about this. You know what I'm saying? My point is, there is a market for anything. Okay. So.
If you can just do this one thing, if you can just learn to think about the market first, you will have a big leg up on most people starting startups. And this is probably the thing that we see wrong with Y Combinator apps most frequently, is that people have not thought about the market first and what people want first. So for the next section, I'm going to talk about building a great product. And here again, I'm going to use a very broad definition of product. It includes customer support and copyright explaining the product. Anything involved in your customer's interaction with what you built for them. To build a really great company, you first have to turn a great idea into a great product. This is really hard, but it's crucially important, and fortunately, it's pretty fun. Although great products are always new to the world, and it's hard to give you advice about what to build, there are enough commonalities that we can give you a lot of advice about how to build it. One of the most important tasks for a founder is to make sure that the company builds a great product. Until you build a great product, almost nothing else matters. When really successful startup founders tell the story of their early days, it's almost always sitting in front of the computer working on their product or talking to their customers. That's pretty much all the time. They do very little else. And you should be very skeptical if your time allocation is much different. Most other problems that founders are trying to solve, raising money, getting more press, hiring, business development, etc., these are significantly easier when you have a great product. It's really important to take care of that first. Step one is to build something that users love. At YC, we tell founders to work on their product, talk to users, exercise, eat, and sleep, and very little else. All the other stuff I just mentioned, PR, conferences, recruiting advisors, doing partnerships, you should ignore all of that and just build a product and then get it as good as possible by talking to your users.
Here's again where I kind of disagree, where they're saying like ignore everything else and just focus on the building a product. Now, on one level, I agree that providing the best product and offer possible should be your priority. But on another level, I don't think this is where you ignore everybody else. I think where a lot of startups fail is they're not including, if you haven't built this team out already, don't build a team out too fast just to have one. It's better to develop in a good way. But where I see startups fail is not bringing on teams earlier on when they should have. Like a lot of startups never get off the ground because they never hired someone to do their marketing to begin with. And you could say, well, they couldn't afford marketing, but they couldn't afford any of the investments they got into their new kitchen and shit. So marketing is the one thing that would have at least could have potentially gotten them some money back. You know what I mean? So it's like, are you even gonna try then? It's like not trying, maybe try. That's how I see it when people are like, yeah, I just didn't do marketing, but I don't know why I failed. I'm like, to me, it's like, yeah, I just didn't try to put myself out there, but I don't know why no one knows about me. Like, what? I don't know. Am I making sense? Right?
Your job is to build something that users love. Very few companies that go on to be super successful get there without first doing this. A lot of good on paper startups fail because they merely make something that people like. Making something that people want, but only a medium amount, is a great way to fail and not understand why you're failing. So these are the two jobs. Something that we say at YC a lot is that it's better to build something that a small number of users love than a large number of users like. Of course, it'd be best to build something that a small number of users love, but opportunities to do that for V1 are rare and they're usually not available to startups. So in practice, you end up.
Man, I don't give a shit about none of this. I'm more focused on building customer relationships and buyer loyalty, because at the end of the day, conversion rates, stats are stats. The numbers tell you how many people are going to be buying from you based on what it's doing. You know what I'm saying?
Choosing either the gray or the orange. You make something that a lot of users like a little bit, or something that a small number of users like love a lot. And this is a very important piece of advice. Build something that a small number of users love. It's much easier to expand from something that a small number of people love to something that a lot of people love than from something that a lot of people like to a lot of people love. If you get this right, you can get a lot of other things wrong. If you don't get this right, you can get everything else right, and you'll probably still fail. So when you start in a startup, this is the only thing you need to care about until it's working. Sure. So you have a choice in a startup. The best thing of all worlds would be to build a product that a lot of people.
I will say, I don't really, maybe I do fall into the, because I do feel like a small amount of people really do love me for me. Like, and those people know who they are. Love you fucking bitches. You're not bitches. Some of you are, but you're my bitches. You know what I mean? But fucking, I love my chads. So, fucking love my bitches. But yeah, fucking what I'm saying is overall though, people really do hate me. They just talk to me and they're just like, this bitch is a bitch. She won't shut, she's offended by things. She's talking and this bitch is bitching. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people don't fucking like me, right? And yeah. So on a certain level, I'm like, you actually don't have to be that well liked to make it in business if you have your value alignment with the right audience who, you know what I mean, who will take care of you in that way. If that makes sense.
People really love. In practice, you can't usually do that because a big company, if there's an opportunity like that, Google or Facebook will do it. So there's like a limit to the area under the curve of what you can build. And you can either build something that a lot of users like a little bit, or you can build something that a small number of users love a lot. And like the total amount of love is the same. It's just a question of how it's distributed. And there's like this law of conservation of how much happiness you can put into the world with the first product of a startup. And so startups always struggle with which of those two they should go. And they seem equal, right? Because the area under the curve is the same. But we've seen this time and again that they're not. And it's so much easier to expand. Once you've got something that some people love, you can expand that to something that a lot of other people love. But if you only get ambivalence or sort of like weak enthusiasm and then try to expand that, you'll never get up to a lot of people loving it. So the advice is find a small group of users and make them really love what you're doing. Does that make sense? All right.
Okay, so I guess I am doing that, and you know, didn't really plan on it or realize it or think about it as I was doing that. It's just kind of what the fuck happened in a way. You know, sometimes that works out. It all went better than expected. Value alignment. You know, it's weird too because I'll be like, I don't agree with that. Oh, you know what? That makes sense. Me in this live stream, I feel like I'm a bit like, sometimes when I'm like learning about marketing and sales, I just feel hypocritical because I'm over here like, capitalism sucks ass, down with capitalism, you're all fucking bootlickers, suck my dick. But anyway, can you show me how to make more money? You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? What the fuck is wrong with me? Anyway, so that's.
One way that you know when this is working is that you'll get growth by word of mouth. If you make something people love, people will tell their friends about it. This works for consumer products and enterprise products as well. When people really love something, they tell their friends about it, and you'll see organic growth. If you find yourself talking about how it's okay that you're not growing because there's a big partnership that's going to come save you or something like that, it's almost always a sign of real trouble. Sales and marketing are really important, and we're going to have 2 classes on them later. But if you don't have some early organic growth, then your product probably isn't good enough yet. A great product is the secret to long-term growth hacking. You should get that right before you worry about anything else. It doesn't get easier to pull off making a great product. If you try to build a growth machine before you have a product that some people really love, you're almost certainly going to waste your time. Breakout companies almost always have a product that's so good that it grows by word of mouth. Over the long run, great products win. Don't worry about your competitors raising a lot of money and what they may do in the future. They probably aren't very good anyway. Very few startups die from competition. Most die because they themselves fail to make something users love. They spend their time on other things. So worry about this above all else. Another piece of advice to make something that users love, start with something simple. It's much, much easier to make a great product if you have something simple. Even if your eventual plans are super complex, and hopefully they are, you can almost always start with a smaller subset of the problem than whatever you think is the smallest. And it's hard to build a great product, so you want to start with as little surface area as possible. Think about the really successful companies and what they started with. Think about products that you really love. They're generally incredibly simple to use and especially to get started using. The first version of Facebook was almost comically simple. The first version of Google was just an ugly web page with a text box and 2 buttons that returned the best results, and that's why users loved it. The iPhone is far simpler to use than any smartphone that ever came before it, and it was the first one that people really loved. Another reason that simple is good is because it forces you to do one thing extremely well, and you have to do that to make something that people love. The word fanatical comes up again and again when you listen to successful founders talk about how they think about their product. Founders talk about being fanatical in the way they care about the quality of the small details, fanatical in getting the copy that they use to explain the product just right, and fanatical in the way they think about customer support. In fact, one thing that correlates with success among the YC companies is the founders that help.
I will say, and sorry if there was an echo because I accidentally unmuted my mic before pausing, but I will say, man, I never hear anybody say the word fanatical. This live stream is probably the first time I've heard it in a while, so I disagree that you hear people say fanatical a lot because I never fucking hear that anymore. Maybe he did at his time. Maybe that was a wording there. But does anyone else? Does anybody say that? What? But yeah, I mean, he is. I do understand what he means though, because in some wording or another, every person that I know that owns a business like spends nothing but like all of our time working on our fucking business, basically. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're rich enough to, or you're doing well enough as a business owner to pay someone else to do that shit for you. You know what I mean?
Hook up PagerDuty to their ticketing system. So that even if the user emails in the middle of the night when the founders are asleep, they still get a response within an hour. Companies actually do this in the early days. These founders feel physical pain when the product sucks and they want to wake up and fix it. They don't ship crap, and if they do, they fix it very, very quickly. And it definitely takes some level of fanaticism to build a great product. You need some users to help with the feedback cycle, but the way to get those users is manually. You should go recruit them by hand. Don't do things like buy Google ads in the early days to get initial users. You don't need very many. You just need ones that will give you feedback every day and eventually.
I do agree that at the beginning you shouldn't be doing paid advertising. You should stick to organic advertising because if you haven't already tested organic funnels and organic offers to see who is willing to generate sales and does your sales funnel work organically, if you put money into a bad funnel, then you're never gonna, no matter how much money you put into a bad funnel, or a bad offer, you're not going to make any money back. So I think it is always best to test the profitability of something or the interest or feasibility of selling something through a given method before running an ad on it. I absolutely agree with that.
Love your product. So instead of trying to get them on Google AdWords, just find a few people in the world that will be good users, recruit them by hand. Ben Silverman, when everyone thought Pinterest was a joke, recruited the initial Pinterest users by tagging up strangers in coffee shops. He really did. He just walked around Palo Alto and said, will you please use my product? He also used to run around the Apple Store in Palo Alto, and he would like set all the browsers to the Pinterest homepage real quick before they caught him and kicked him out. So then when people walked in, they were like, oh, what is this? This is an important example of doing things that don't scale. If you haven't read Paul Graham's essay on that topic, you definitely should. So get users manually, and remember that the goal is to get a small group of them to love you. Understand that group extremely well, get extremely close to them, listen to them, and you'll almost always find out that they're very willing to give you feedback. Even if you're building a product for yourself, listen to outside users, and they'll tell you how to make a product they'll pay for. Do whatever you need to make them love you, and make them know what you're doing, because they're also going to be advocates to help you get your next users.
The whole do whatever you need to make them love you concept, though, was throwing me off. That sounds way too ass kissy, like sell your soul, do whatever it takes. I feel like that's how people end up doing unethical shit in business, and how in business it can be normalized to be doing shady shit with rich people or people who can do it just because, you know, like, I don't know. There's something about that really fucking bothers me. Like, it just reminds me of how fucked up shit gets upheld in business because of people being in control that you need to appease, you know? You don't have to do whatever it takes to keep dip fucks happy if they suck ass. How about
You want to build an engine in the company that transforms feedback from users into product decisions. Then get it back in front of the users and repeat. Ask them what they like and what they don't like, and watch them use it. Ask them what they pay for. Ask them if they'd be really bummed if your company went away. Ask them what would make them recommend the product to their friends, and ask them if they recommended it to any yet. You should make this feedback loop as tight as possible. If your product gets 10% better every week, that compounds really, really quickly. One of the great advantages of software startups is just how short you can make the feedback loop. It can be measured in hours, and the best companies usually have the tightest feedback loops. You should try to keep this going for all of your company's life, but it's really important in the early days. The good news is that all of this is doable. It's hard, it takes a lot of effort, but there's no magic. The plan is at least straightforward, and you will eventually get to a great product. Great founders don't put anyone between themselves and their users. The founders of these companies do things like sales and customer support themselves in the early days. It's critical to get this loop embedded in the culture. In fact, a specific problem that we always see with Stanford startups for some reason is that the students try and hire sales and customer support people right away. And you've got to do this yourself. It's the only way. You really need to use metrics.
I do agree with that. I know I was saying earlier people fail by not hiring teams on before they should, who can be helping them do what it takes to be sustainable. But on another level, I do absolutely agree with a lot of people will be spending money on getting people to do work for them before they're even profitable enough to actually do that in a sustainable way. And then they have to end up keep laying people off, firing people. They don't have sustainability. They got higher retention rates, and it ends up creating bad blood all around. You know what I mean? So
Metrics to keep yourself honest on this. It really is true that the company will build whatever the CEO decides to measure. If you're building an internet service, ignore things like total registrations, don't talk about them, don't let anyone in the company talk about them, and look at growth in active users, activity levels, cohort retention, revenue, net promoter scores, these things that matter, and then be brutally honest if they aren't going in the right direction. Startups live on growth. It's the indicator of a great product. So this about wraps up the overview on building a great product. I want to emphasize again that if you don't get this right, nothing else we talk about in the class will matter. You can basically ignore everything else that we talk about until this is working well. On the positive side, this is one of the most fun parts of building a startup. So I'm going to pause here. I'll pick back up with the rest of this on Thursday, and now we're going to have Dustin talk about why you should start a startup. Thank you for coming, Dustin.
Sure. But yeah, so Sam asked me to talk about why you should start a startup. There's a bunch of reasons you might have, and there's a bunch of common reasons that people have that I hear all the time for why you might start a startup. It's important to know like what reason is yours, because some of them only make sense in certain contexts. Some of them will actually like lead you astray. You may have been misled by the way that Hollywood or the press likes to romanticize entrepreneurship. So I want to try and like illuminate some of those potential fallacies so you guys can make the decision in a clear.
I do really like how they want to address the fallacy regarding romanticizing entrepreneurship. That's what the fuck I was saying earlier with how like a lot of people, they don't even know what the fuck it takes to do business. Like they go into business because they think it's gonna make them rich, but no, like if you go into business, that's about to be your life. Like if you're building a business, it needs to be for a purpose to serve, the community through what you have to offer. You know what I'm saying?
Clear way. And then I'll talk about the reason I like best for actually starting a startup. It's very related to a lot of what Sam just talked about, but surprisingly, I don't think it's the most common reason. Usually people have one of these other reasons, or they just want to start a company for the sake of starting a company. So the four common reasons, just to enumerate them, are it's glamorous. You'll get to be the boss. You'll have flexibility, especially over your schedule, and you'll have the chance to have bigger impact and make more money than you might by joining a later stage company. So you guys are probably pretty familiar with this concept. When I wrote the Medium post, which a lot of you guys read a year ago, I felt like the story in the press was a little more unbalanced. Entrepreneurship just got romanticized quite a bit. The movie The Social Network came out, had a lot of sort of like bad aspects of what it's like to be an entrepreneur, but mainly sort of painted this picture of like there's a lot of partying. You kind of move from like 1 billion insight to another billion insight, and really made it seem like this like really cool thing to do. And I think the reality is just not quite so glamorous. There's an ugly side to being an entrepreneur, and also just more importantly, what you're actually spending your time on is just a lot of hard work. Sam mentioned this, but you're basically just sitting at your desk, heads down, focused, answering customer support emails, doing.
That's actually where I'm struggling right now, is putting my mental energy on focusing on work. Like, bitch, focus on work. Stop trying to dick around on social media, fucking work. it's hard. Like, it's harder than you think. And people are like, oh, well, when I graduate college, I'll be able to just do nothing but work and it'll be easy. And it's not, okay? It's fucking not. Like, you gotta be able to support yourself. You gotta have funding, relationships. It's difficult. Life is hard, you know? And so
sales, figuring out hard engineering problems. So it's really important that you kind of like go in with eyes wide open. And then also it's really quite stressful. This has been a popular topic in the press lately. The Economist actually ran a story just last week called like Entrepreneurs Anonymous, and shows like a founder kind of like hiding under his desk, talking about like founder depression. This is like a very real thing. Like, you know, let's be real. If you start a company, it's going to be extremely hard. Why is it so stressful? So a couple reasons. One is you've got a lot of responsibility. So people in any kind of career have fear of failure. It's kind of just like a dominant part of the psychology. But when you're an entrepreneur, you have fear of failure on behalf of yourself and all the people who decided to follow you. So that's really stressful. In some cases, these people are depending on you for their livelihood. Even when that's not true, they've decided to.
you know, and some people, I feel like they should have more fear of failure for the people that they get involved in their business. Because I know some people, they just don't give a fuck about their employees. And I'm like, how are you like this? Like, I am terrified of building my business in an unsustainable or unethical way to where I can't pay people. I don't want to make past mistakes of where I was doing things I didn't have the money to be doing and paying last minute and making this and that. Like, I don't want to be doing all of that again. Like, I don't want to be making it worse and all of that. Like, and I've paid everybody. I paid people late one time, but I've always paid everybody. Um, and I'm not talking about for rent either, because I can be late on rent a good bit. But I'm talking about people that I've hired. You know. So yeah, fucking so that, because even that, just like immense guilt, and I never want to go back. Like, so I'm tired. I would never like hire someone without knowing, okay, I can, you know, guarantee them a certain amount of hours. So then you meet people who they just don't like you. They'll hire you and you'll be doing great at work, and then they just don't like you for X, Y, or Z, which is fine. You don't have to like people, but then the way they fuck you over and call you off, they can suck. Like, what the fuck, like, dude. I don't understand people sometimes. It's like, how do you have no respect for the quality of life and of living for other people when they've rearranged their whole life to come put their energy into you? How do you have no respect for them? You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? So, anyway, yeah, they tell you don't give your boss all of your energy. Well, what if you're your own boss? When you own a startup, you're your own boss, and so you don't get the choice of checking out of, okay, now I'm going to clock out, I'm no longer at work. You're always working. That's another thing, you're always working.
To devote the best of your years of their life to following you, and so you're responsible for the opportunity cost of their time. So that's a big deal. And you're always on call if something comes up. Maybe not always at 3 in the morning, but for some startups that's true. But if something important comes up, you're going to deal with it. That's kind of the end of the story. Doesn't matter if you're on vacation, doesn't matter if it's the weekend. You kind of always got to be on the ball and always be in a place mentally where you're prepared to deal with those things. And then a sort of special example of that is or this kind of stress is fundraising. So seen from the social network, this is us partying and working at the same time. Somebody's spraying champagne everywhere. So the social network spends a lot of time kind of painting these scenes. Mark's not in the scene. The other thing they spend all their time on is kind of like painting him out to be a huge jerk.
You know, we talk a lot about how drugs and alcohol are rampant in like the music industry, for example. We should talk about how normalized it is in business. You know what I mean?
This computer?
Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
Okay, because on one level they're right, it isn't all like that, but on another level, at least in New Orleans, in every office I've ever worked in, there's always been talks of alcohol, and everybody's discussed how there's alcohol accepted at work, events, and it's a normalized thing. Um, you know what I mean? Like, fucking, and just everybody, in my opinion, always looks for reasons to go get drunk. And in my opinion, in a lot of businesses that I've worked at, I don't want to name names, there have been places where cocaine and other drugs are involved and people and things are normalized. And I was like, what the fuck? It was just a business. What the shit? Anyway, fucking. And then you go into the music industry and you're over here like trying to convince the DJ to stop boofing cocaine out of this bitch's ass because he needs to get on stage. And you're just like, what the fuck? Okay, I'm sorry. Bye.
Okay, so this is an actual scene from. So I'm gonna move this just a little. Oh no, this will work. This will work. Okay, on the PDF as well. Okay. Okay, cool. This is an actual scene from Palo Alto. Spent a lot of time at this desk, just kind of heads down in focus. Mark was still kind of a jerk sometimes, but in this more like fun, lovable way, not a like sociopathic, scorn lover way. So this is him like signaling his intention to, you know, just be focused and keep working, not be social. So then there's also the scene sort of demonstrating the like brilliant insight moment. It's kind of like straight out of A Beautiful Mind. They literally stole that scene. So they like to paint it as you just kind of like jump from one of these moments to the other moment with like parting in between. But really, we're just at that table the whole time. So interestingly, if you compare this to the other photo, Mark is in the exact same position, but he's wearing different clothes. This is definitely a different day. So cool. So that's what it's actually like in person. And I just covered this bullet up here. This is the economist article I was talking about a second ago. So another form of stress is just like unwanted media attention. So part of it being glamorous, you get some positive media attention sometimes. It's nice to be on like the cover of Time and like be the person of the year. It's maybe a little less nice to be on the cover of People with like one of your wedding photos. It depends who you are. Some people would like that. I really hate it. But when Valleywag like analyzes your lecture and just tears you apart, like you definitely don't want that. Nobody wants that. And then one thing I almost never hear people talk about is you're just a lot more committed. So if you're an employee of a startup and things are stressful, it's not going well, you're unhappy, you can just leave. For founder, you can leave, but it's very uncool. Pretty much a black eye in the rest of your career. And so you really are committed. For 10 years if it's going well, probably more like 5 years if it's not going well. So 3 years to.
I will say that ideology has now changed, in my opinion. Like, it used to be such a big deal. Like, if you started a business and you failed, then you would be perceived as someone who wasn't sustainable in business. Because if you can't run your own business, how can you go work with someone else's in a good way, right? But I can understand how the way that logic got drilled into people's heads, people start to believe that in a way. But that's not always true. In some cases, that basically is a good way to sum up the truth of that person on an individual case-by-case basis, because they just suck ass at doing business, right? But on an overall level, typically when a lot of startups fail, it wasn't because they just weren't good at business or they just weren't trying hard enough or they weren't, it's because they didn't know what to do or where to put their resources. And you do better in business by trying again and learning and trying again. You make every person fails in business, but it's only it's the business owner who has that risk typically of keeping the business going. And so, you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm making sense here. But yeah, fucking. So I don't know, man. I really do see where it's like it does create this commitment because there is a pressure to succeed when all the risk is on you, and if it succeeds or fails, that's on you at the end of the day. But on another level, I know a lot of people who failed at what they were doing in businesses. They failed out a lot of businesses, and that's how they learned. And you know what I mean? Like, I know someone who failed. Not, I don't like saying that. That sounds fucked up. I know someone who lost their business, but now they have an opportunity to build it back up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, there's a new movement to where now it's a learning opportunity. It's an experience. People are starting to understand the factors and conditions that make it difficult to create a sustainable business, particularly with outside factors and particularly since COVID. To where it's not the worst thing in the world if you lose your business. You can rebuild and go again. Whether it be working with someone else or doing something again for yourself. So I will say I disagree that, like, I understand how it can feel like a black eye or feel like a failure, but I don't think that it is let me make sure that the captioner is getting this. No, the captioner got that way wrong. The captioner got that way wrong. Holy fuck, no. Not guy. And I was only repeating what the dude said because he just said it before. Holy shit. That captioner is racist, I swear to God. Holy fuck. Oh no. Not guy. Like getting punched in the face. Yeah. Oh God. No. Oh shit. Fucking captioner. Stupid ass captioner. God damn. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna watch this fucking video. Holy
Figure out that it's not going well, and then if you find like a nice landing for your company, another 2 years at the acquiring company, and if you leave before that, again, it's not only going to harm yourself financially, it's going to harm all your employees, so you pretty much don't. So if you're lucky and you have a bad startup idea, you fail quickly, but most of the time it's not like that. All right, moving right along. And I should say, I've had a lot of distress in my own life, especially in the early years of Facebook. I just got really unhealthy. I wasn't exercising, had a lot of anxiety, actually like throughout my back, like almost every 6 months, like when I was like 21, 22, which is like pretty crazy. And so if you do start a company, be aware that you're gonna have to deal with this and you have to actually manage it. It's actually like one of your core responsibilities. Ben Horowitz likes to say like the #1 role of a CEO is managing your own psychology. It's absolutely true. Make sure you do it. So another reason, so people, especially if they've already had a job in another company, you tend to develop this narrative of like, okay, like the people running this company are idiots, they're making all these stupid decisions, they're spending their time in these stupid ways. I'm gonna start a company and I'm gonna do it better. I'm gonna like set all the rules. It's a pretty attractive idea. Makes a lot of sense. If you've read my Medium post, you know it's coming. I'll give you guys a second to read this quote. Um,
Shit, I'm gonna go back. I kind of want to go to see what that quote was. I was saying the quote says people have this vision of being the CEO of a company they started and being on top of the pyramid. What it's really like. Everyone else is your boss. All of your employees, customers, partners, users, media are all your boss. I've never had more bosses and needed to account for more people today. This is true. And then it says the life of most CEOs is reporting to everyone else. If you want to exercise power and authority over people, join the military or go into politics. Don't be an entrepreneur. Bill Libin, CEO of Evernote. I will say that I don't think he understands. Well, since he feels that way, then why is he still an entrepreneur? You know what I'm saying? Um, because in my opinion, the CEOs do make all. In some ways, well, if you have a CEO structure, you actually don't get to make all the decisions. You have to answer to your shareholders. So in certain levels, you actually don't get to at the end of the day because even if you make a decision in the moment, yeah, you can be like, I'm the CEO, and you can make that decision. It could still, if your stakeholders didn't like that decision, it can still bite you in the ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, but so when you're a small business owner in a certain way, I feel like small business owners and medium business owners and even large business owners, but not in a CEO structure, can have a bit more authority power than over the control in terms of control of what's happening in their business than a CEO, because by definition a CEO does have to answer to other people. But to act like a CEO can't exercise power and authority over people is like, are you kidding me? You'd still have the power and authority to fire anybody that works for you, basically, pretty much, for the most part. Like, you know, you do have a lot of authority and power in that level. And when people act like they don't have authority and power that they do, it kind of bothers me because it brings me back to my mommy issues where she doesn't understand, you know, that the parental parent has power and authority. And she doesn't understand that she doesn't understand how because a parent has authority over a child, when a parent harms a child a certain way, that's when the parent is abusive. Because the parent has the authority over a child to oppress them, right? And so I kind of feel like this is a cognitive dissonance from their own behavior, potentially. Because it reminds me of my mommy and my fucking daddy issues. Like, people don't understand the power dynamics or power imbalance of their role. I consider them a dangerous person because they're not being aware of how what they do impacts others. You know what I'm saying?
um, Cool. So this really resonates with me. And one thing I'd point out is, the reality of these decisions is pretty nuanced. The people you thought were idiots probably weren't idiots. They probably just had like a really difficult decision in front of them, and people pulling them in multiple directions. So the most common thing I have to spend my time on and focus my energy on as a CEO is like the problems that like other people are bringing to me, the other priorities that people create. And it's usually in the form of a conflict. People want to go in different directions, or like customers want different things, and like I might have my own opinion about that. But really, the game I'm playing is like, who do I disappoint the least? And like just trying to like navigate all these difficult situations. And even on a day-to-day basis, I might come in on Monday and like have all these grand plans for like how I'm going to improve the company and what I'm going to spend my time on. But then if like an important employee is threatening to quit, that's what I'm spending my time on. That's my number one priority. So a subset of you're the boss is you have flexibility. You have control of your own schedule. This is a really attractive idea. So here's the reality, another full live quote. So this really resonates with me as well. Some of the reasons for this, again, you're always on call, so maybe you don't intend to work all parts of the day, but you might not get to control which ones. You're a role model. This is super important. So if you're an employee of a company, you might have some good weeks, you might have some bad weeks, some weeks when you're low energy, maybe you want to take a couple extra days off. That's really bad if you're an entrepreneur.
And this is another reason I think you should focus on doing what you love with your passion as well. Like, keep in mind what they were saying earlier about do your work for your audience, not for what you want. But what I'm saying is if you're doing what you want, you'll be able to work for hours without, like, even though you'll go through phases like I was discussing where you have problems focusing or being productive. Overall, because I do what I love, I can work for hours. The rest of the road falls away for me. Like, I just, you know what I mean? Like, when I get into my workflow, it's like, boop, boop, you know what I mean? I don't know how to use my words right now, but, yeah, so on that level, it's just like, you do what you love because you are going to be doing it a lot, you know what I mean?
Like your team will really signal off what you're bringing to the table. And so if you take your foot off the gas, so will they. and you're always working anyway. So if you're really passionate about an idea, it's just going to like pull you to keep working on it. If you're working with great investors, you're working with great partners, they're going to want to be working really hard. They're going to want you to be working really hard. And again, you're going to want to work really hard. So some companies like to tell the story about you can have your cake and eat it too. You can have like 4-day work weeks maybe. If you're Tim Ferriss, maybe you can have a 12-hour work week. It's a really attractive idea, and it does work in a particular instance, which is if you want to like actually have a small business or go after a niche market, then you're a small business entrepreneur. That makes total sense. But as soon as you get past like 2 or 3 people, you really need to step it up and be full-time committed. Cool. So this is the big one. So this is the one I hear the most, especially like candidates applying to Asana. They tell me, I'd really like to work for a much smaller company or start my own because then I have a much bigger slice of the pie. I'll have much more impact on how that company does, and I'll have more equity, so I'll make more money as well. So let's examine when this might be true. So I'll explain these tables. They're a little complex, but let's focus on the left first. So this is just explaining Dropbox and Facebook. These are their current valuations, and this is how much money you might make as employee number 100 coming in.
I don't know. Maybe he thinks maybe this is complex for him, so that's why he's saying it's a little complex. But I do kind of find it infantilizing when you're teaching people something and you're like, it's a little complex, but it's not. It's a simple concept. A market valuation is a simple concept to me, and I think at a college level, college students typically likely should be able to. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I apologize.
These companies, especially if you're like a relatively experienced engineer, like you have like 5 years of industry experience, you're pretty likely to have an offer that's around 10 basis points. So if you joined Dropbox a couple years ago, the upside you'd have already locked in is about 10 million. There's plenty more growth from there if you leave the company. If you joined Facebook a couple years into its existence, you made $200 million. This is a huge number. And if you, even if you joined Facebook as employee number 1,000, so you joined it in like 2009, you still made $20 million. That's a giant number. And that's how you should be benchmarking when you're thinking about what might I make as an entrepreneur. So moving over to the table on the right, these are 2 theoretical companies you might start. So Uber for pet sitting, pretty good idea. If you're really well suited to this, you might have a really good shot at building a $100 million company. And then your share of that company is pretty likely to be about 10%. This certainly fluctuates. Some founders have a lot more than this, some have a lot less. But after multiple rounds of dilution, multiple rounds of option pool creation, you're pretty likely to end up about here. If you have more than this, I'd recommend Sam's post on like the equity split between founders and employees. You probably should be giving out more. So basically, if you're extremely confident about building this $100 million business, which is a big ask, it should go without saying that you should have a lot more confidence in Facebook in 2009 or Dropbox in 2014 than you might for a startup that doesn't even exist yet, then this is worth doing. So if you have a $100 million idea and you're pretty confident you can execute it, I would consider that. If you think you're the right entrepreneur to build Uber for space travel, that's a really huge idea.
I will also say with this concept and this advice, with a lot of where they're going to with the market valuation in this way too, is where people will often build businesses with the purpose of selling them, and that's where a lot of this advice can be more useful for people who are in it for the long-term sustainability in a certain way. This percentage valuation, market valuation number you see here, it might reflect your long time earnings, but it won't reflect what you're going to get in a short time period.
$2 billion idea, you're actually going to have a pretty good return for that. You should definitely do that. This is also only the value after 4 years, and this idea probably has legs. So definitely go after that. If you're thinking of building that, you probably shouldn't even be in this class right now. You should just go and build that company. So why is this financial reward and impact? I really think that financial reward is very strongly correlated with the impact you have on the world. If you don't believe that, let's talk through some specific examples and not think about the equity at all. So why might joining a late-stage company actually provide you a lot of impact? You get this force multiplier. They have an existing massive user base. If it's Facebook, it's 1 billion users, or if it's Google, it's 1 billion users. They have existing infrastructure you get to build on. That's also increasingly true for new startups, thanks to like AWS and all these like awesome independent service providers. But you usually get some like proprietary technology, and it's all maintained for you. It's a pretty great place to start. And you get to work with a team, and they'll help you just leverage your idea into something great. So a couple specific examples. Brett Taylor came into Google as around employee number 1,500, and he invented Google Maps. This is a product you guys probably use every day. I used it to get here, and it's used by hundreds of millions of people all around the world. Didn't need to start a company to do that. Did happen to get a big financial reward, but the point is, yeah, massive impact. My co-founder, Justin Rosenstein, joined Google a little later after Brett. He was a PM there, and just as a side project, he ended up prototyping Chat, which used to be a standalone app, as integrated into Gmail, like you see it in the upper right there. And before he did that, like people didn't even think you could do chat over Ajax or chat in the browser at all. And he just kind of like demonstrated it and showed it to his team, and then they made it happen. And again, this is probably a product most of you use maybe every day. And then perhaps even more impressively, shortly after that, JR left. He became employee round number 250 at Facebook, and he led a hackathon project along with people like Andrew Bosworth and Leah Pearlman to create the like button. So this is one of the most popular elements anywhere on the web. Totally changes how people use it. And again, didn't need to start a company to do it, and almost certainly would have failed if he had tried, because he really needed the distribution of Facebook to make it work.
We've seen a lot of these cases are talking about things where they're talking about the impact, but these specific things that they're saying were like, okay, these things were sold in order to get that money as well. So not only do you have to be able to have this idea, be able to execute it, you then have to be able to have the connections to put it to the right people. Like it takes a lot to make those types of deals happen. You know what I'm saying? So for those types of people, for those are going to be very, very sporadic case basis. Like, in my opinion, that's going to be the outlier. The typical startup, in my opinion, will probably be more focused on building out as a small to medium business, and not like it's going to be more of a sustainable approach based on the typical resources we have available to us, I think.
So important to keep in mind the context for what kind of company you're trying to start and like where will you actually be able to make it happen. So what's the best reason? So Sam already talked about this a little bit, but basically you can't not do it. You're super passionate about this idea. You're the right person to do it. You've got to make it happen. So how does this break down? So we're getting close to the end here. Am I doing time? Sweet, perfect. This is sort of like a wordplay. You can't not do it in two ways. One is you're so passionate about it that you just like you have to do it. You're going to do it anyway. And this is really important because you'll need that passion to get through all of those like hard parts of being an entrepreneur that we talked about earlier. You also need it to effectively recruit. Candidates can smell when you don't have passion.
See, that's what the fuck I was saying earlier. It's like, why you shouldn't be doing things you don't believe in my opinion, when it comes to business.
And there are enough entrepreneurs out there who do have passion, but they may as well work for one of those. So this is sort of like table stakes for being an entrepreneur. Your subconscious can also tell when you don't have passion, and that'll be a huge problem. And then so the other way to interpret this is the world needs you to do it. So this is sort of validation that the idea is important. It's going to make the world better, so the world needs it. If it's not something the world needs, go do something the world needs. Your time's really valuable. There are plenty of good ideas out there. Maybe it's not one of your own. Maybe it's an existing company, but you may as well work on something that's going to be good. And then the second way to interpret this is the world needs you to do it. You're actually well suited to this problem in some way. If this isn't true, it may be a sign that your time is better spent somewhere else. But also, just best case scenario, if this isn't true, you outcompete the team for which it is true, and you just end up with like a suboptimal outcome for the world. That doesn't feel very good. So drawing this back to my own experience, at Asana, Justin and I were kind of like reluctant entrepreneurs before we founded Asana. So we were working at Facebook. We were already working on a great problem, and we would.
And for those of you who don't know, Asana is a project management tool. It's actually a really big tool. Like, so these are very, in my opinion, huge people in the marketing industry, in the project management industry. Like, they huge.
Basically work all day long on our normal projects, and then at night we would keep working on this internal task manager that was used internally at the company. It was just because we were like so passionate about the idea, it was so clearly valuable that we couldn't do anything else. And at some point we had to have the hard conversation of like, okay, well, what does it mean if we don't actually start this company? We were able to see the impact it was having on Facebook. We were pretty convinced it could be really valuable for the world. We were also pretty convinced nobody else was going to build it. The problem had been around a long time, and we just kept seeing sort of incremental solutions to it. So if we didn't go out with the one that we thought was best, we thought there'd be a lot of value left on the table. And yeah, so we just couldn't stop working on it. And literally the idea was like beating itself out of our chest, like forcing itself into the world. And I think that's the feeling you should really be looking for when you start a company. That's how you know you have the right idea.
I actually really do love his lecture a bit more than I did the first lecture. And I mean, I like what the lessons you can get out from both of them. Even though I didn't like that one quote from that CEO this dude put up, overall, I just feel like I'm a bit more like inspired about what he has to say. But fucking, yeah, knowing that, like, where this dude's, I feel like that's a great way to lecture and speak on project management. Like, I don't know, I feel like this is someone who actually really does have that passion for what he is trying to speak on. Even if I don't agree with like every single thing he says, you can really tell when someone is trying to educate you from what helped them succeed versus, you know what I mean? Like when someone is just like in my opinion just doing something for the PR, like because it would be easy for a CEO of, or a founder of a big company like Asana to go teach at Stanford University for the press and for the title. But when it comes down to the content of the material, and obviously when you go on a certain caliber level of an Ivy League school, a certain amount of value is expected. But when you look at the attention to detail and what words he's choosing to use where it comes to how are you focusing your time and how are you serving the community and how does this align with what you want to do in the world, I think that is interesting.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and stop there. I'll put some recommended books up here, but won't narrate them. And maybe that's the end of the class.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe Justin can stick around a few minutes if you have questions for him, and see you Thursday. Thank you.
God damn it. I just realized I was fucking muted this whole time. I fucking hate when I do that, man. I fucking hate that shit. God damn it. I'm gonna scroll this bitch up and I'm gonna fucking read what the fuck I just said again. So yeah, we have concluded that this is me reacting to our Stanford Business Education playlist here for some commentary on the startup playlist here. I was saying, I don't know, I think this captioner got it, the captioner got part of it wrong there, but you know. I was saying, that this is a good video to watch. I didn't agree with every single thing that was said in the video, but overall, I think it has amazing ideas for people to consider when building out their startup. What I wish they spoke a little bit more on was applying their ideas to when it's applicable, better applicable to all startups, when it's more applicable to someone more focused on building themselves a long-term small or medium or even large business, or when it's more applicable to when you're trying to create something to sell it. And if they had differentiated that a bit more with the topics, I would have had less critique or commentary. But that's just something I would have liked a bit more. And that's when I realized I was muted. And we're here now. So yeah, that's what the fuck I was saying. So, yeah, so let's just recap this live stream and conclude from here on out. Because I'm a bit unfocused today. I'm sure you didn't notice at all. Fucking, but, just kidding, you probably definitely noticed. So we kind of started off by just following up on the last live stream that I did about the whole Tawana Thornton Thomas situation. And in there, I did a comparison to GRB. And when I did that comparison, one of the comparisons is they both claim to be native, but I'm not sure that either of them are. And so at that time though, when I went to go find the video from when I had seen that GRB was claiming native, um, I couldn't find a video in that live stream. And so I found it later and I began this video with showing that because I was like, I felt gaslit that I couldn't find it then. And then because like I also wanted to take my mind off of some of these heavier topics we've been covering in my recent live streams. So I wanted to also look at this is still in some ways a relatively heavy topic because I feel like it's a big deal to have your work stolen. But it was a bit of a way also to take my mind off of some of those heavier ideas by looking at this business situation where this hairstylist Raylee Rukavina, who was a bridal client, stole a wedding dress from designer Casze. I don't know if I spelled it. Casze. So yeah, I don't think I said I. Did I say I? It's Casze. Okay. So yeah. Anyway, we talked about that a little bit. Like I understand why people are like, don't ever send a dress again without getting down payment. I mean not down payment. She got a down payment without getting full payment. I can kind of see why people were saying something along that line, but when people were saying this is your fault basically because you didn't get the full payment before sending, that bugged me because I felt like that was victim blaming. um you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. Like that wording to me really does matter. um so yeah, I'm very shocked that someone who owns a business herself would go steal from someone else this way. It's very shameful. That dress was gorgeous. Um, and I think it's interesting to reflect on value alignment, because this is, this she was a startup at one point, was she not? Both of these people were. And so when we look at the product and the result of this offer, and then we put that in reflection of now we've discussed all it takes to start up the business, right? you put that into comparison, like you look at all of that hard work and you think about that, of how when Raylee is stealing from Casze, she's risking that for Casze. I think that's also interesting to reflect on. So with value alignment, I think that goes to show, like, your actions do come back on you. I really do believe that. Like, where I have not been a good person, I know it will come back on me, and that is fine to me because, like, where I don't think I've been a good person is typically in ways where um, I will have this anger, and even in the moment where I'm being discriminated against, I don't want to be the type of person where I justify going lower just because, and I get on one level, like fuck around and find out, bitch. But on another level, it's like I don't want to excuse what they do to me to make me like them in another way. And so I've had people who basically say a bunch of ableist things to me about deafness, and then I would be like, well, I hope you go off yourself, right? Um, yeah, if you don't like me for that, valid. It's valid. Like, what? Like, I've been there. And I think, I wouldn't be surprised if that came out of me again if I got to that breaking point. I don't just go there. It takes a certain level of things to be said for me to get there. But yes, I get there. I have gotten there. You know what I mean? Um, and so there are things like about every human being, we all need to work on ourselves. But when you own a business, it comes like there's even more responsibility for you when it comes to value alignment. And on that being said, though, it goes to show, well, if that's the truth, how come you have so many shitty ass people still in business? And when you need to reflect on how did they build their business? Because if you build your business in a shitty way with value alignment and community that upholds that, then you're going to be able to keep going on that community, right? And so when we're talking about startups with our audiences and how we're building up the startup and a reflection of the reaction to this how to start a startup video, value alignment is also one thing that I wish they touched on there, because that is going to be crucial into every aspect of the outcome of how you build your business, in my opinion. Um, but perhaps, you can't cover everything in one lecture, so perhaps we'll get there in another lecture of theirs. But yeah, that video, I do think it's a great video for anybody to go watch, the How to Start a Startup with Sam Altman and Dustin Moskovitz. They're awesome video, but uh it was a great refresher for what it takes to, remind yourself, like, because for me, when I'm doing marketing for businesses, I take businesses at all stages of their cycle. And so I do take startups. And so for me, it's also like a really good refresher to keep in mind, what is someone going through as a startup business when they're my client, right? And so I feel like it's, for several reasons, no matter what your industry is, there are very good reasons for you to go check out this playlist, the How to Start a Startup playlist, and the video itself. Um, because even if you don't agree with every single thing they say, these are still people who have done the things before that they're telling you about now. And so you're then able to go learn from their success and take the nuggets that work for you. You take what works for you, you leave what doesn't. And so that's what I hope that you're able to do with all of these live streams in your own way, you know what I mean? In terms of value alignment and um, reflecting on whether or not it's a good, safe space for you to be in, and just like, well, whether or not my live streams are a good, safe space for you, or when the topics we're speaking on, I'm often thinking about business and society and community generally as well. Like, I think it's good to then reflect on how are we building our community, you know? Um, so yeah. So yeah, it's just me thinking, like, I feel like I'm a pretty fucked up person. Like, I definitely don't think I'm decolonized enough to be speaking on decolonizing as like a authority figure of decolonizing. So when I talk about it, it's not because I think I'm this person to speak on decolonizing. It's because I want to do better and be better. And that's what I'm trying to do, but I don't know if I'm doing it, right? You know what I mean? Um, so I don't know. So I don't know if that's even okay for me to speak about because maybe I'm being a problematic fucking bitch for that, right? Like, is that it? Like, what? Like, because what if me sharing this is just perpetuating harm? You know, like who knows? But some of it, it's like I'm sure there are things where I'm not aware of it, where people can be like, "Nah, bitch, X, Y, and Z was fucked up. Do better." Some of it, though, I feel like I don't know if any of us are going to be able to process is what we're doing in decolonizing journey helpful or harmful until later. And that's kind of what sucks about like the decolonizing journey is you don't get to process is what you're doing in social work and activism helpful or harmful to your community until you try it. And you know, I don't know if that makes sense or how I got there. I'm sorry. Now I'm rambling. I feel like, I'm like, dude, so I'm just gonna say thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate you. It means so much to me that you're watching. Thanks for checking this out. I hope you have a great night. I hope you sleep well. Take care of yourself. But yeah, I appreciate you. And I am gonna run the fuck away because I feel like I am making no sense now. So my bad. But yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Join the loyalty program at noladeafchild.com/loyalty and check in during live streams to get points for rewards.